out in the wild, and then I'll let you all rush for some shelter at the end. So, penguins. Penguins are fantastic birds. There are 18 species altogether. They're all found living in the wild in the southern hemisphere, so that's below the equator. We don't have any wild penguins up here in Europe. We have 3 species here at the zoo. We have black-footed penguins from the beaches of South Africa. We have Humboldt penguins from the coastal regions of Chile and Peru. And we have our very special rockhopper penguin, who I will point out later. I think he's in the pool at the moment, enjoying the weather, which is suitable for penguins. And those are the 3 species that we have here. Now, penguin species range in size from 4 foot high. That's the emperor penguins, the big ones with the yellow markings that you quite often see on nature programmes, right down to the 1 foot high fairy penguin, or little blue penguin, found in New Zealand. Very, very cute. Our penguins, as you can see, are kind of middle-sized for penguins. And as you can also tell, really love their brand new pool. This pool was opened last summer. It's actually the biggest penguin pool in England, so as you can see, they've got plenty of room to swim around, make the most of all the space that they've got. Now, as you can see, today our keepers are feeding them fish, and they're doing that in 2 different ways. They're using these feeding pipes at the front of the enclosure, for those of you stood in front of the glass, and we're also throwing fish into the pool. The rest of you can probably see our keepers throwing fish into the pool. Now, both of those ways of feeding are to encourage natural behaviour from penguins. As you can probably guess, penguins don't in the wild get fed with dinner plates. They don't have their food served to them on a silver platter. They have to go and catch it. And what we're doing is encouraging our penguins to use the natural behaviours that they would in the wild to find their food. By throwing it into the water, obviously, they learn to dive in and catch it. And by using these clever tubes at the front, what we're doing is we're disassociating ourselves from the supply of food. What the penguins should do is realise that the fish is coming out of the bottom and dive down and get it. Although you can see some of the clever Humboldt penguins at the top are just waiting for it to be thrown in the water. But in theory, what they'll do is they'll dive down and catch the food at the bottom of the sea just like they would in the wild. Although penguins are perhaps a little bit comical on land, they look a bit funny as they waddle around, as they walk, as you can see here, they are actually incredibly well built for catching their food out in the wild and also for swimming out at sea. You can see just how fast these guys are swimming just in this area here. Imagine how fast they can go out in the wild. They can actually swim at speeds of up to 25 kilometres an hour, which sounds quite fast, but to put it into perspective, the fastest human ever recorded swam at an average of about 8 kilometres an hour. So these guys can swim really, really quickly. They've got really strong flippers, or fins, their wings that allow them to move through the water. And their feet also act a bit like rudders, so allow them to change direction really quickly when they're following those shoals of fish. The fish that they eat are cold water fish, and therefore, kind of obviously, the water that they're found in is cold. And so our penguins have a very sensible 2-feather system, which keeps them nice and warm. It's a little bit like any of you today wearing a fleece with a raincoat over the top. You definitely need it at the moment. And that's exactly what our penguins have got. They've got an inner layer of soft, downy feathers that keeps them nice and warm, and an outer layer of waterproof, kind of waxy feathers, and that keeps the water away from them, so it keeps them nice and warm. So they can dive in really cold water to go out and get their fish. I mentioned that one of our species of penguins, the black-footed penguin, is actually found in the wild on the beaches of South Africa. It comes as a bit of surprise to people. We tend to associate penguins with cold weather, but they actually live in all different climates. So what our black-footed penguins have to do is fish out in cold water, but also survive the hot temperatures on land. And they very sensibly do this by staying in the shade, by jumping into the water if they're getting a little bit too hot, and by generally fishing in the mornings and the evenings. So they're very good at adapting to different temperatures. You can also see that all penguins, a bit like the joke go, are black and white. More specifically, my penguin model here, this is one of our young black-footed penguins, as you can see, has got a white front and a black back. If you have a look at every single one of our penguins, in fact all penguin species, you'll see that they have white fronts and black backs. And that is a form of camouflage, a very clever form of camouflage called counter-shading, which basically means that penguins can hide in plain sight. Imagine you're a predator of a penguin, so something like a shark or a seal, and you're on the top of the surface of the water looking down into the dark depths. It's very difficult to spot penguins and their black backs as they swim along underneath you. You then imagine you're that same predator and you dive down into the water and you're looking up at the surface where theoretically it's nice and sunny. The glare from the sun matches with their white fronts, and so that again makes it very difficult to see them. Now at this point usually I would point out the fantastic pattern of spots that our penguins have, but as they're all in the water enjoying their lunch, I will describe it to you and you'll probably see it at the front of the windows. In fact, one of our juveniles here does have some spots. Humboldt penguins and black-footed penguins, which are the majority of the penguins here in the pool, all have a fantastic pattern of black spots on their white fronts. And this pattern is individual to every penguin, just like our fingerprints are individual to us. So it's one way that we can tell the difference between penguins. My goodness, just when you think it can't get any wetter, it does, doesn't it? I'll continue on regardless. So, these are our two main species, as I said, our black-footed and our Humboldt penguins. The Humboldt penguins have a lot more pink around their beaks, so that's how you can spot them. We have one very special penguin who, despite not minding the rain, I believe is hiding in the pool at the moment, and that is our rockhopper penguin, Ricky. So, if when the weather eases slightly, you see a small-looking penguin with fantastic yellow feathers, he's our rockhopper. He's one of a kind. He's a small penguin with a big personality, and he is something called a crested penguin. Crested penguins have these fantastic yellow feathers, and they use these for communicating with each other, so to attract a mate or to try and scare something off. And Ricky in particular is often found around on this area, basically showing off to the public. So if you do see a very attractive looking penguin with yellow head feathers, you know that's Ricky, our rockhopper penguin. So, I've introduced you to our three species of penguins. You've watched them have their food. You've all got very, very soggy indeed, so thank you very much for bearing with us. Thank you very much for listening to our talk. I hope you have enjoyed it. If you do have any questions, I'm going to go and seek shelter over by the base camp for the next couple of minutes, so do please come and say hello, ask me anything you'd like. If not, thank you very much for listening and enjoy the rest of your day in a hopefully slightly less wet Cedar London Zoo. Thank you.